How to kill a human, you ask? The question came from a Deathwalder student, and Professor Lehavi chose to answer it rather than dodge it. They're not so different from other species. Let's give it some thought. The professor's long silver hair cascaded like liquid mercury around her slender purple form, as she began her measured pace around the semicircle of students. Her six-fingered hands gestured gracefully as she moved, the delicate webbing between each digit translucent in the light. Beyond the windows, the core world of the Galactic Federation stretched endlessly. A metropolis of impossible architecture where gravity-defying towers spiraled into clouds of synthesized atmosphere, their surfaces alive with the constant flow of anti-grav traffic. Holographic advertisements and a dozen alien scripts flickered between the buildings, and in the distance, the great orbital ring was visible. Lehavi's violet eyes surveyed the unfamiliar faces before her. This was her first semester teaching xenobiology at the prestigious Galactic Unit Academy, and she had yet to memorize the names and species of all 40 students enrolled in her advanced seminar. The diversity was impressive. Scaled beings from high-gravity worlds, mammalians covered in fur, avians with their endless feathers. She paused her stride beside a feline student in the front row, her movements deliberately slow and non-threatening as she approached the predatory being. "May I?" Lehavi asked softly, extending her webbed hands towards the student's paws. The feline, covered in sleek, dark fur, nodded consent. Lehavi gently lifted the student's hands, extending the retractable claws with careful pressure. Each claw gleamed like polished steel, curved and wickedly sharp. "Now, class, observe these natural weapons. Humans, despite their Deathworld origins, possess remarkably vulnerable anatomy. Their necks in particular are soft and unarmored. The major blood vessel runs close to the surface, protected only by thin skin and minimal muscle tissue. Any galactic citizen equipped with claws such as these could, in theory, end a human's life with a single swift strike across the throat." The feline student tilted her head, her triangular ears swiveling forward with interest. Her voice came out as a purr overlaid with the mechanical translation from her collar. "Professor, does this mean my species could easily defeat humans in combat? We are faster than most races, after all." Lehavi released the student's hands and considered the question. "An interesting query, Leahiri. The historical record on Kalarian-human confrontations is limited. Your species' superior reflexes and natural weaponry certainly would provide advantages." She paused, then added with what she hoped was an encouraging tone. "Still, in a close-quarters ambush scenario, I would be confident in your chances. Speed kills, as they say." Moving through the classroom with the fluid grace her aquatic ancestry provided, Lehavi approached a draconic student whose scales shifted from deep emerald to amber as she drew near. A threat display, she noted with professional interest. The Rapili sat perfectly still. Only his eyes tracked her movement, the nictitating membranes flicking across them every few seconds. She stopped at a respectful distance and simply pointed to his mouth. "Open, please," she requested. The reptilian complied, unhinging his jaw to reveal rows of needle-sharp teeth and, more importantly, the paired venom sacs visible at the back of his throat. "Class, observe the Rapili's primary defense mechanism. Their saliva contains a cocktail of neurotoxins potent enough to paralyze a Mundarian heavy warrior in under 3 minutes. Death follows shortly after as the respiratory system shuts down. I believe, though we lack definitive field data, that his venom would prove equally effective against human physiology. They are, after all, carbon-based oxygen breathers like most of the species it affects." The professor's gaze swept across the diverse assembly, searching for her next example. And in the back row, almost hidden in the shadows cast by tiered seating, sat an enormous figure that immediately drew her attention. The Zothar student barely fit in the reinforced chair designed for larger species. His 4 muscular arms folded across a chest that would have served as a small landing pad. She made her way up the steps, noting how several students instinctively leaned away from the aisle as she passed. Not from her, but from the destination her path clearly indicated. The Zothar watched her approach with eyes like chips of obsidian, unblinking and patient. "And here," Lehavi announced, gesturing to the imposing figure, "we have perhaps the most straightforward example of potential human termination. Our Zothar colleague possesses the raw physical power to simply overwhelm human defenses. Each of his 4 arms can exert approximately 2 times the crushing force of a human's maximum capability." The Zothar remained silent, but Lehavi caught the slight downturn of his mouth. Disapproval? Disagreement? She made a mental note to follow up after class. A glance at the holographic chronometer floating above the lectern told her that the session was drawing to a close. 5 minutes remained. Time for one more example. Her scanning gaze settled on a hooded figure in the middle rows, one she hadn't noticed in her initial survey. There was something about the way they sat, a quality of stillness that spoke either of perfect relaxation or coiled readiness. The ambient danger radiating from the figure made the unusually boisterous Kellar twins in the adjacent seats maintain a careful distance. Intrigued, Lehavi descended the steps and approached the mysterious student. The hood was deep, casting the face in complete shadow, and the loose academic robes gave no hint of the species beneath. Only the hands were visible, resting on the desk. 5-fingered, she noted, which narrowed the possibilities considerably. "Pardon me," she said, pitching her voice to carry to the entire class. "Would you permit me to use you as our final example? I believe your presence here might provide an interesting contrast to our previous discussions." The figure was still for a long moment, then reached up with those 5-fingered hands. The movement was smooth, economical, no wasted motion. As the hood fell back, Lehavi felt her chromophores, the color-changing cells in her purple skin, flutter in shock. The face revealed was unmistakably human. Warm brown skin, close-cropped black hair, and eyes the color of Earth's mythical coffee bean. His features were sharp, weathered in a way that suggested exposure to harsh environments, and a thin scar ran from his left temple to his jaw. When he smiled, it didn't reach his eyes. "Actually," the human said, his voice carrying easily through the suddenly silent classroom, "that won't work." He stood slowly, and Lehavi realized he was taller than she'd expected, with the kind of lean build that suggested function over form. Lucas, she saw the name on the uniform, moved to the front of the class, every step balanced and purposeful. "Let's start with a feline friend here," Lucas said, nodding to Leahiri. "Professor Lehavi is correct that Kalarians have superior reflexes and natural weapons. But what she perhaps doesn't know is that the classified aftermath of the Deneb Station incident, where 3 Kalarian assassins attempted to eliminate the human ambassador. All 3 were trained from birth in their craft, products of the notorious Shadow Claw Academy." He paused, letting that sink in. "The ambassador killed 2 with her bare hands and hospitalized the 3rd. Kalarians rely on quick, decisive strikes. Now when those fail, they struggle with brute force and endurance. Humans, conversely, excel at prolonged combat. We call it getting our second wind. You call it insanity." Leahiri's fur bristled, but she said nothing. Lucas turned to the Rapili student. "And as for our venomous friend here, I noticed that you didn't mention the documented cases of human Rapili pairs who engage in what we call close contact without any fatalities. Now, it turns out that human liver function is remarkably efficient at processing your neurotoxins. Oh, it'll make us sick for a few days. Maybe cause some hallucinations, but fatal? Nah, he shook his head. I've seen humans kiss rapidly at frontier bars in a dare. The real danger is the hangover. The reptilian student's scale shifted through several colors, a clear sign of agitation. And our Zothar friend in the back, Lucas continued, his tone remaining conversational despite growing tension in the room. Professor, did you cover the Battle of the Ganther Pass in your historical review? No? Interesting omission. 50 Zothar heavy warriors against a single human platoon. 30 soldiers. Now, the Zothar had every advantage. They had strength, numbers, defensive position. The battle lasted 18 hours. He paused. The humans took the pass. You see, Zothar evolution optimized for explosive power. Perfect for their high-gravity worlds where fights end quickly. But humans, we are persistent predators. We can maintain moderate activity for days. By hour 6, the Zothar were exhausted. By hour 12, they could barely lift their arms. Now the humans were just getting started. The classroom was dead silent. Several students were looking at Lucas with expressions ranging from fear to fascination. Others were stealing glances at Professor Lehavi, whose chromophores had shifted from their usual purple to an almost translucent white, the Aquari equivalent of a deep blush. The chronometer chimed, its melodious tone shattering the tension. Students began gathering their materials, the scrape of chairs and rustle of equipment abnormally loud in the awkward atmosphere. As they filed out, more than a few threw pitying glances at their professor, who stood frozen at the front of the class, her 3 pupils all fixed on the human who had just dismantled her entire lecture. Lucas was about to leave, pausing at the door. For what it's worth, Professor, you covered the theoretical aspects well. It's just the practical application where things got complicated. He pulled his hood back up, once again becoming just another anonymous figure. Same time next week? Then he was gone, leaving Lehavi alone with her shattered assumptions and the growing